Hey everyone, just wanted to let y'all know that my physical copy of my graphic novel is now available to purchase on Amazon. There's also the ebook form, but it's finally done. I'm excited. Finally got the physical copy ready to go. So if you want to check that out, I'll leave the links down in the descriptions, alright? Other than that, I hope you enjoy the video. Bye. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Wicked Art. It is Wicked here, and today we are going to be doing a little Halloween picture. So, I figured we'd have some fun and we can do a Halloween version of a Pokemon, and which better one that I can think of because there's plants is Bulbasaur. So, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to start out drawing Bulbasaur himself and then kind of adding in the things that we want on there. So I'm going to start with the head. So I'm going to kind of put in a circle right here. So you can start nice and light because we're going to do some erasing and things like that. So I'm just going to start with a head here like this. Okay. And then from there I can start to build things out, right? So I can kind of emphasize the roundness here on the head and then do like a slight curve out. And then we'll swing that down like that. And then as we get to like the center of the mouth, we're going to go ahead and we're going to go back this way to this point. Okay, so I can also take that and then clean up any of those sketchy lines that I don't need there. So starting back up here, let's go ahead and let's curve back an ear. And we'll just attach it to the head like that. Okay. Now again, I'm just using this as a basic starting point. So my ear here, so I'm going to come behind the ear this way. And we're going to arch across the top of the head here. And start with another ear. And then we're going to bring that down. Kind of curve in. And then we'll try to drop that down into that area there. Okay, so starting from here, let's kind of bring the mouth back this way some, and then let's just clean up all our sketchy lines. And that's why it's important to kind of draw lightly. Okay, so that's all I'm going to do for now for that. We're going to put in the bottom part of the mouth just so we know where it's at. So this will kind of be the bottom lip right here. Okay, and I'm going to erase this little bit right here. All right, so next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to run right here alongside the mouth, and we're going to do kind of an action pose for Bulbasaur. Just that way it looks a little bit more dynamic. And we're just going to round the foot just a little bit and then just kind of arch back out. To right here. Okay. Then I want to kind of get the belly. So let's put a little bend or crease right here in the arm. We want to arch a little bit more. I want to give him a little bit more of a belly. So I'm going to arch this way. Like this. Now I'm not making it quite as big because he's kind of jumping towards us. Okay. And then we're going to draw the back side of the leg. So we're going to come like right here in this section. Again, we don't need it to be super huge. Just because he's jumping towards us in a way. Okay, so I'm just going to build that kind of shape right there. And then we got a small part of his bottom right there. Okay, so that's that part of the body. Let me come back over here to this part of the face. I'm going to kind of come out and curve right back into it. Let's make this a little bit thicker. I'm going to go just a little bit on the thicker side there. Okay. So the next thing I want to do is I want to draw something that's more Halloweeny. So we're going to go for a pumpkin. So I'm going to curve this head in, and then I'm going to start with a circle. Okay, so we're going to kind of make that big, and we're going to curve that around. Kind of put like a little dip in it. And bring that back like that. Okay, so we got ourselves a nice little pumpkin shape. Alright, so the next thing I want to do is we want to kind of draw the stem. So I'm just going to kind of make this kind of somewhat of a curvy shape. And then I'm going to erase out this top area. Just like that. Okay, so I'm going to curve my stem up. And then I'm going to have a little bit of it come out back here. And we're going to curve down back into there. So we just kind of have like a slight curve going here. And then we can curve these pieces up into here. And just to give it's just to give it a little bit more depth. A little bit more detail. Okay, and then we'll curve up one more right there. So we got ourselves a pumpkin stem. Okay, so next thing we're going to do is we're going to make it a jack-o'-lantern head. But the first thing I want to do is I want to get my lines in here for the pumpkin. So I'm just going to arch these lines out. So each part that I made kind of a little corner with on the stem is what I'm going to use. Okay. Now the trick to making this look more like a pumpkin, see how it's kind of flat here? What I can do is erase out the bottom here and kind of curve like that. You can do the same thing here. You can kind of round out. A little bit different, so you can see how it's kind of putting almost like a hump. And we'll do the same thing here on this side and just kind of have it rounded on that portion. All right. So we could make it to where the eyes and stuff would be here, but then we wouldn't really be able to see it behind the head. So what we can do is we can design it to where like it would have a face on both sides. Okay. So I'm just going to kind of draw in a creepy face here. So I'm just zigzagging some lines. Like that. And I can erase out the parts that are inside the mouth. Okay. And then it's up to you whether you want to give it a nose or not. I'm going to drop this line back some. Okay, and then I want to think about the areas that I can see. So I can see the edge of my pumpkin there, my edge here. So you can see how that's giving me kind of a 3D effect. So same thing here. I can see the edge of my teeth on this triangle part. And we'll take that up right there. Okay. So now that I have that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and we're going to color or darken the inside of the mouth. So I want to make sure I'm just getting the parts that are not the 3D shapes of the teeth. And we'll just simply fill that in. Okay. So you can fill that in as much as you need to. Don't, leave the white spaces in there. All right, so the next thing I want to do is establish some eyes. So we're going to do kind of a creepy, evil eye. Just like that. And then again, I want to think about the edge that I can see from this angle. So it's going to be that top edge. And again, I can just color that in. All right, so it's kind of like a somewhat creepy face, nothing too crazy detailed, but it's nice and solid. Now I want to come and establish the same thing. Now if you notice, it's turned, right? So I don't want to draw it the same exact size. So I'm going to shape it in a way that's a little bit on the shorter side. And again, I'm going to be able to see this bottom edge here. So I'm just going to fill that in just like that. Okay, so I have my eyes established, I have my mouth established. Now I can start thinking about other cool things that I want to add. So, he uses his vine whip attack. So we can have, we're just going to sketch it first. We can have the whip coming out. And have that curve around. Let's curve it more this way. Okay. So again, I'm just kind of sketching it right now. We're going to come out. We're going to get bigger as we come this way. So again, I want it to kind of come out from underneath the pumpkin. So we're going to go this way with it. Again, because we're away from us, it's going to be on the smaller side. And then as I come down, we're going to widen out and come here. Now I'm not going to complete it right now because I haven't decided if I want him to have like flames on the end of it. We might do that, but for now, that's just how we're going to leave it. Okay, and then I want my vines to come out the other side. And if you need to, you can pause the video at any point to catch up. But we're going to sketch up and come back down. behind the pumpkin, this way. Again, we'll leave that open. And come out this side. Sketch down. And again, I'm going to leave that open just for now. Okay. So now we have that established. What I'm going to do is something a little bit different. Instead of just leaving it like a pumpkin, we're going to give him a skull. So the first thing I'm going to do is we're going to kind of have the ears. I'm just going to thicken up this line right here. Have the ears kind of cracking out through the skull. So I can just kind of erase that little bit of line there. Then I want that to kind of come out a little bit further than the actual. Okay, so the same thing here. I want this to be cracking out of the ear. So let's thicken this line up just to make it look like it has some shadow coverage. Okay, so now my ears are going to be cracking out of my skull, right? So next thing I want to do is I want to shape the skull itself. So what we can do is we can start up here. So where I have this, we can kind of round down. I'm going to come out and make the eyes. Kind of like that. Let's extend our eyes out just a little bit more, just so I can get the right curve on the mask. All right. Next thing I want to do is I really want to emphasize the cheek part of my skull. So I'm just going to erase this line out here. And that inner side. Okay. So I want this to kind of swoop and come down. And then we're going to make little curves for our teeth on the skull. Okay. And then once I get there, I'm going to do the same thing on this side. We're going to kind of stretch that out. And then I'm going to emphasize my cheek on this side. Might have to make that a little bit taller. So let's drag that out. Come in. We'll curve out for our eye again. And we'll put the rest of our skull mask there. Okay. So we want to continue that same thing. I want to curve over and down. Just like that. All right. And now I want to start thinking about the shape of the eye socket itself. So let's do kind of a similar shape that Bulbasaur would have with the eyes. So we're going to bring our socket down this way. now that I'm looking, so our face is kind of turned, let's adjust the skull a little bit. Okay. Then I want to shape my nose. Okay. And now for my teeth, I'll make these ones long. Just because I'm going for more of a stylized look for it. Okay. So now I have a skull shape in there. Now, what I can do is we can thicken up the edges right here around the eye. Because then what I want to do is we want to still get that same kind of eye shape in there. And then from there, add in my pupil. Then all I have to do is we can just go in there and just start coloring that in black. Like that. Okay, we have like a slight extra curve out right there. But once I'm done filling it in, it'll look like that. Okay. So now I want to do the same thing here. We're going to put in another eye. And I can just fill that in. Again, we can thicken up the edge right here by the eye, the ridge or the brow of the skull. Now, technically, since this is stylized, we wouldn't really see the brow of the skull like that, but we're just going with it for the picture's purpose. And again, I'm going to have this kind of slight curve here. Okay, and you just fill it in nice and solid. All right. So now we have our skull shape, we have our pumpkin. Let's do a let's do a flame on there on the end. So we're gonna kind of give him like the Charizard treatment here. So we got ourselves a curve, and we're just gonna kind of curve the flames around. And it's gonna give it like a bend like that. And curve that up. Okay, so that's gonna be the start of our flame here. And we're gonna do another one back on this back end. Okay, so we'll change it up some. I mean, we're still gonna essentially do, oops, that the same kind of curve to it. So we're just gonna kind of arch this up, bring that back in, and rotate out. Okay, so we have our flame there, and we're going to meet it in the middle, so I'm going to put another curve here. And we're just going to arch this up that way, nothing too fancy. Like that. So now we got a flaming vine whip. Now all we have to do is just put in our claws on the feet. Okay, so let's kind of come in here and put this kind of cone shape right there for the thumb. And we'll run the finger off this way. Give it some depth right there by erasing that out. And we'll have another one right here. Okay, so that's one claw set there. Now we can just simply come out here and do the same thing, except I'm gonna make it a little smaller. Let's pull that back down. Like that. Got a little space. And we're gonna run right into the other toe. Okay. Then we're going to do one more right here. Just like that. And then let's not forget his back toes. And then we'll point this one out this way right here. Like that. Okay. Now we can come in here and we can start detailing. So let's go ahead. Let's put some spot shapes in here. On the body. Maybe have a little bit of one showing right here. We'll get one back here on the leg. And should be good there. Yeah, that should work for that. Okay, so we're going to start detailing the rest of this up. So first thing I'm going to do is we're going to take this edge right here, and I'm going to trace it. And I'm going to color it in. Okay, so it's nice and dark. And I'm going to go around and solidify my line work by just thickening it up. Again, this is good for if you're like wanting to color it afterwards. You will not really bleed over your lines too much. Okay, and then right in here, you can kind of shape out this part on the teeth, just to give it more of a skull look. Okay, and then just kind of continue around and thicken up your line work. Okay, you can also come in here and add a few lines. Doesn't have to be anything too much. Again, just enough to get some detail in there. And then where this curves right here at the tooth, we can come in and kind of round and thicken that up. Just like that. And then I can continue around, refining and solidifying my line work. That way it's nice and solid. Again, anyway, there's kind of a curve come in there, darken it, thicken it up a little bit, just again so it looks like those ears are coming out of that hole. Before I move up the rest of the skull, let's go ahead and take care of this part of the hand. So I'm going to thicken up an area right here, just because it's kind of being blocked by the body a little bit. Okay, I'm going to do the same thing and refine our little talons right here. Okay. Now this underside right here, we have our mouth. We can drop out a slight tooth thing from his actual mouth. And then these parts under the skull right here, I'm just darkening that up because again it's being covered by the skull. Where these little kind of rounded areas are, we're just going to kind of shade that in. Again, just refining and thickening my line on the skull so it stands out some. So same thing here. Now I can add in a few detail lines like that. Again, it'll just make it a little bit more interesting. And I'll thicken this up right here, and again back here on the skull. We're just going to shade that in or shadow it in just because it's the lower point. Add that little bit of a curve. Okay. So now our skull on the face stands out more. Okay, so now I'm going to darken my ears up. And same thing with this skull up here at this top where it kind of curves. I'm just kind of thickening that up. And we're going to drag that over and darken the lines up there. Okay, so let's do this other ear. And now see how much our head is standing out compared to the rest of the body. That's the whole purpose of it. Okay, so I'm not going to do too much shading just because I want you to be able to have the option to color it when you're done. Okay, so I'm just kind of going around, refining my lines. And thickening them up. Make them pop a little bit more. Just like that. So I'm just kind of going over everything and just really putting a little bit more pressure on there. Now again on this part of the fold, I want to kind of round shade so it flows into it and then down to this lower part of the stomach here. Like that. So see how it increases the thickness a little bit. Okay, I'm going to come up this way. And you can be as creative as you want, obviously, when you start coloring. So I'm just kind of rounding, shading that in. Again, just making the picture pop more. Okay. So right here, where the buttocks area kind of meets the back leg, And we're going to come out. And we're going to do the same thing here, right at the knee. All right. So now that that part's done, I want to take like this part here from the arm and the shoulder. We're going to kind of shade that in just a little. And this is all just minimal shading because I just want to get the point across of certain areas that are overlapped. Okay, so like for instance, let's go ahead and refine and harden our lines, at least for the vine work up to this point where it curves. Okay, now again I have my pumpkin, right, that's coming out. So what I want to do is again show that depth by just filling in that bottom area and giving it some shadow. So same thing here where the vine comes out. I'm going to thicken that up just a little bit more where it's running across the body. And we can go ahead and refine that shape that comes out. Okay. And we can continue with the vine. And you can clean up any of your sketchiness as you go along in your image. So we're just going to kind of run parallel. With refining our lines. That way we can just stay on path with each other and not have to go back. Okay. And I'm going to take my vine. Let's cut it down just a little bit. Okay. So see how I brought it in some right there? Okay, and then let's do the rest of our line this way. Just making sure it's nice and refined and solid. Alright, so now we can work on our flame. So I'm going to go ahead and we're going to refine and thicken our lines here. And then once we're done with that, we'll add in a little bit of extra line work, so if you want to color it like flames, you can. Okay, so first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put a few extra like flicker pieces off, just to give it more of a flamed look. Okay, and then what you can do is you can kind of come in here and give it another outline. And that way it looks a little bit more like fire. So you could put another small section here for the hottest part. And again, it'll kind of help it look more like a flame. Now I'm going to thicken up the outside here. Again, just because I want to make it stand out a little bit more. You don't necessarily have to do that. Okay. So now that sticks out that way. So let's come in here and start working on our pumpkin. Again, we're simply just refining the lines by thickening it up and working our way around the image. Okay. So the same thing is going to go with your eyes and mouth. You just want to really make sure that those lines are going to stick out too in the image. So same thing here. I don't want that touching that bottom portion. So we're just going to start it here. And go back like that. Okay. So again, we're just thickening up our lines, making them nice and refined. Now what you could do is, if you don't like the way I drew the skull, you could either A, try to draw it a different way yourself, or B, just not put the skull in there and just look up a picture of Bulbasaur's face. And I'm just putting some extra lines in here for some detail. Again, just to kind of help it not be so flat. Okay, so it just adds a little bit more. I am going to shade this part right here, just because we have that overlap again. Okay, same thing with the skull part here. We're going to kind of shade and round that up into there. And again, it'll just help give it more depth in your picture. Okay? So now let's refine our stem lines. And once we're done with that, we have a little bit of an overlap here, so I'm going to kind of thicken that a little bit more. Once we're done with that, that just leaves our back vine and flame back there. So again, I got a slight bit of an overlap. So I'm going to take this and we're going to take that out, thicken up our lines. And I'm just going to run them parallel doing it. Again, that way I can stay even on what it is that I'm doing. Okay, let's come down with this last one here. And then we can get that back sign. Now, for this part, we have that slight bit of an overlap from the pumpkin, so I'm just going to kind of round and thicken that part there. Okay, so let's come out the other side over here. Again, it's just refinement. I'm just making it pop off the page now. go. Okay, and then that just leaves the flame on the back end. And then once we're done with that flame, we're going to bring this to a close. So again, while I'm doing that, I want to thank you for sticking around. If you watched the whole video, I finally finished that comic book I was working on for somebody else, and now I'll have more time to put up more videos. I'm still working on chapter 2 of mine, but at least this way I just have the one to worry about. So it won't be, so long anymore between videos. But if you're new to the channel and you like what you saw, or if you have suggestions, go ahead and leave me a comment. If you want, you can subscribe. Comments really help out just because they help me guide the channel in the direction that you, the viewer, wants it. Okay, and that's the whole purpose of this. So, yeah, I hope you had fun, because that's going to do it for our Halloween Bulbasaur. I hope you had fun. I hope you learned something. And again, if you want to subscribe, that's great. I appreciate you. Every subscriber we get is a new student that I get, and I love teaching people to do stuff. So please, if you have suggestions, let me know down in the comments. I would love to hear from you. I always respond back, and I'm happy I've done it before. I'm happy to make videos on anything that you want. Other than that, while you're out trick-or-treating or spending time with your families, be safe. But have fun, bundle up if it's cold. It's going to be cold here. But other than that, yeah, like I said, I'll see y'all in the next video. I'll have some more up this week. Other than that, thank you for stopping by. Remember to keep on sketching, and I'll see you in the next one, all right? Bye.